All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and you are watching us and listening to us on the Conscious Awakening Network. Now, if you are watching us on our website, welcome, welcome, welcome. And I invite you to take a moment and look around. I think you're going to like what you see. And if you're listening to us on our podcast locations, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Now, I do want to invite everyone to go to their phone app store to download our phone apps, get your favorite television locations also, Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, Android TV, Samsung TV. Download that. You can just kick back, sip some tea, and watch Cosmic Conversations. So don't forget to download our free apps. Now, I do have a couple of announcements that I do want to share with you. May the 11th, 9th through the 11th at the New Living Expo, Sunday the 11th at 11, I'll be talking about the multidimensional grids. I'm going to be working with Elder Mother Tiamu. Come on down, check us out at the New Living Expo. I'd love to see you, give you a big hug. So come on out. Also, I'm going to be speaking at the Light Language Conference in Arvada, Colorado, and that's going to be May the 30th through June the 1st. So you can check that out at the lightlanguageconference.com. Now, I am super excited to introduce our guest for tonight. That's Laurie Wheeler. Now, Laurie is also one of our co-host, I would say, not a co-host, but our host on the Conscious Awakening Network. She has her own channel, so you can always go there and find additional information about Laurie. So check her out at consciousawakeningnetwork.org. And she is herself a luminary futurist. She is a self-mastery catalyst with over 30 years of experience in multidimensional healing, awakening soul purpose, and expanding consciousness. Now, as a star seed and as an energetic transmitter, she works with light language, medical intuition, soul regression, advanced energy modalities for DNA recalibration, can't talk tonight, and transformation, along with a host of other modalities. So you can check her out at her website. But Laurie partners with quantum biologists to explore light codes and their effects on the biological and the energetic systems. So I hope she's going to be talking with that about uh, talking to us about that tonight. Lori, I'm so excited I can't even talk. Now, she's also the author of Oh No, Not Another Learning Experience, and she leads spirit adventure tours to sacred sites worldwide. She channels Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, and the power of 12 angelics, along with others, to guide people on their awakening path. And tonight, she's going to talk to us about the codes from the galactics. Now, this is really exciting. This is groundbreaking work, folks. So you are very, very lucky to be hearing about this tonight because these codes are presented from 5 different star groups to bring love, light, direction, coherence for ascension. Now, they're in contact with the Earth's grid system, which of course excites me, and they're encoded information into the pyramids, and they're transmitting personal information about who we are, our place of origin, and the enlightening of our path forward. Now, they're really honestly aiding her work and knowledge in the biological and the spiritual DNA and research. So I'm super excited to let you tell her all about how she is working hand in hand to receive these powerful downloads, how she's working with the subtle energy, and what effects all of these are having on our DNA and on our water. So, Laurie, welcome. Super, super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sheila. Really, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share the information. So, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much. Now, how long have you been working in this field? And actually, how did you get started with the DNA research?
Oh my. So I've actually been in this for probably, I guess, about 5 years with this particular the codes and that. Although I think, gosh, I mean, I've been with codes. Excuse me, I gotta sneeze. It's so funny. There we go. It'll come. I think I've been working with codes for a lot longer because I've seen a lot of things, squiggles, I'll say, because that's what they kind of look like to me when I write them, um, and sacred geometry and such. And we know that information is all coded information. Everything is coded information. So it's kind of hard to say when it actually started. But working in the research science with Dr. Glenn Ryan. And he's been with the HeartMath organization, and he was a professor in a college or university in London and here in the US. And he's just got a long list of accomplishments. So, and he's worked with many people, including Carolyn Corey. I think she did a documentary and some of his work and hers as well. So he's been very much into this, but I did not know that when I met him. I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. Yeah, it was before the pandemic and that. And I just, he knew of what my capabilities were. And we got talking one day, and I asked him, what his research was about. And he asked if I would be interested in being a subject for his research. And I said, sure, I'd love to do that. I'd love to see what that proves out to be, how that shows up in data. You know what it feels like, your subject or your client, what they are experiencing, but the data really it just it quantifies it. It says that this is living proof that this is what is happening. And so it's really been a pleasure and eye-opening to be a part of this and see how DNA can actually, what it does, the how it changes, and also water as well. And so for me, I'm able to see into the subtle fields of scalar and quantum and the electromagnetics and many other aspects as well. So when we started working, and I started to transmit, I started to have images show up as well. And we began the work by calling in certain resources. So I believe now it's a few years, but I believe the first person or spirit that I asked was Mary Magdalene, because I channel Mary and I've worked with her for some time now. I wanted to see how the effect on DNA would be. And so we asked her. I asked the Arcturian commander of a particular Starfleet, Commander Ashtar, who I've also been in touch with numerous times, and I have actually been up on the Galactic Federation ship several times. And when I am not here in 3D on the Earth and we are going other places, I am also up on this particular starship. So I know him, and so I was curious about what is the difference between Mary Magdalene and the Arcturian commander, and then I work with this other consciousness. It's a huge consciousness as it displays itself to me, and it's the emissaries of light. And one aspect that speaks to me quite predominantly named itself Mega for short. Actually, Megalithicon is what it is. And so if you can imagine by its name, it's massive. And And so we took those three particular subjects, and what I did is I contacted each one separately and transferred, by connecting with them, transferred their energy into DNA. Now, the DNA is, it's not one person's DNA, it's numerous people's DNA. And what happens, how we kind of, what I will call, boil it down or get it down to where there's nothing in it but just pure DNA. So, in other words, the proteins and the lipids and everything that constitutes DNA for us has been extracted, and it's held in a very tiny vial, and it's a very small amount, but we know size doesn't matter in energy, right? So it was held in a little crystal vial, this DNA, and I asked each individual subject if they would transmit in their own way their information, and because in for science we wanted to understand what was happening with DNA. And each one came in at a different amount of what we'll call electrical conductivity. Now, everyone knows pretty much that we're electromagnetic. We're electricity and magnetism, okay? And one sends out and one receives or pulls in. And so there's this constant flow of energy, of information moving out and in from our environment, within our own structure, from everywhere. It's a constant transference. And it also has to do with the way it moves. And this is something that they've also brought to my attention frequently, is that it has a lot to do with the way energy moves. So we know that there are particles of light, and we know that there is different waves and different streams, and they come in different ways. But it also has to do with the way the DNA moves. It has to do with the way the energy moves around us and in us. So it's all about the movement of energy as well. And so in this in this collection of data, I would transfer. And now it's not me, I am just really the conduit, allowing for this energy to come in. I'm working in a different part of the room than where Glenn is working, so that I'm just kind of all by myself. My eyes are closed, and I am not in this realm and transferring this information. And so each subject came in a different percentage, but ultimately they wound up being over a period of time, because we checked it initially, and then we checked it, I think, maybe 6 hours later, and then we checked it 24 hours later, and so on out over a period of time. And what we actually found, and I thought this was really quite interesting, is that it started out at one percentage, the electrical conductivity. In other words, again, we are electromagnetic, so everything running through us is electrical in a way, okay? So this is about the electrical energy that is running through into the DNA from these subjects, from these beings. And eventually, they all wound up being around the same percentage. And also, it increased over a period of time. So when you go and have some type of energy work, or you make a prayer or a mantra, or you call in the light, or whatever it is that you do that creates an energetic movement, okay? Maybe you're working with a crystal, whatever it is, um, it's not just at that moment that you're being affected, but over a period of time, it proves out that it also stays with you, and and it changes and adjusts your energy, so that you're not the same as you were an hour ago. It is a constant movement and a constant change. So, this is something you may not be aware of at the moment, but it's definitely changing and moving in a continued fashion. So, you may be, let's just use a crystal for a subject matter. So, if you're working with a crystal and you're feeling energized and feeling different and more balanced, and then maybe you walk away and 2 hours later, something happens and it shifts you. Okay. It doesn't mean that whatever that energy was working with you, that's gone away. It doesn't go away. It's imprinted in your energy field. And how I know this is because I can see the energy fields. And in doing this work, I've actually been able to see where it imprints itself. So, over a period of time, like I said, it proves out and it shows that it actually became stronger. So that was some of the research that we had done with the DNA.
Now you're working with the Syrians also, right?
Yeah. So
So tell
that's
us about that. I think that's
yeah.
exciting.
Well, and that's been a lot of fun. So I guess I have a lot of Syrian and energy with me in my blueprint. And one day when I was working with them, or not with them, but these. So when I work with the codes, I never know who's coming in to do what work until they allow themselves to be presented. But one day, and I'll explain also with galactic codes, what they do is they do many things. But what I've noticed with many of my clients and with myself included, uh, they they take you back to your origins and they allow you to see what those particular origins have to do with your current life. So, one of the times I was working with them, the Syrians came in and brought me to a particular time. Uh, and it's a simultaneous timeline that's going on right now. How I know that is because I'm sort of back and forth and I receive information now and again. And I know it's simultaneous. I can feel that it's a simultaneous thing. Um, and so they brought me to uh, Sirius, and it's a water planet, this particular part of Sirius. And they showed me what they looked like. So they're what we call the mer people, and the mer people are not what we normally think of as mermaids and mermen's. They're not this beautiful looking, flowy type of being. They're more lizardy, fishy, scaly looking beings and not pretty at all. I mean, in the way we would figure in human terms, they're kind of ugly actually, because they're scaly and they've got these weird ears and yeah. But so when I was it was like a simultaneous happening that I could see this whole planet and it was underwater and they were explaining everything about being that they live in the water. They can come above the water, but they are in the water most times. And they actually showed me that when there is, let's say, a mishap, something happens in the water where say they're wounded in some way or something happens to them, they have the capability of self regeneration. In other words, like their body begins to repair itself. And that I want to tell you, when I actually saw this and they were explaining it to me, that blew my mind because I wanted to really understand more of that. When you know people who are sick, who are suffering, who have physical ailments or whatever, you know, knowing something like that could make all the difference in the world for a person who's suffering, right? So, of course, I want to understand more about this. So, they began to show me what their, like what we would call their blood fluid is sort of how it's structured. And um, if they were to have some kind of a wound or something, it illuminated itself. Now, we know here on Earth there are certain creatures that bioluminesce, and we've seen them in the ocean. Oftentimes they're sea creatures, although there are land creatures that do luminesce as well. And we do as well too, but you cannot see us do it without a black light. And there's a certain time of the day where we actually luminesce, but it's not something that you can see with the naked eye. This has to do with the photonic light that is in our structure and in sea creature structure and that. So they are very connected and receive this energy as a transference in their system. It is in a their system is in a constant repair of healing. And this has a lot to do with biophotonic light, which are light particles that energize and heal the body, heal their body, but it is a part of their structure. And it also has to do with a transference from their environment as well. And they live in a different way than we do here on Earth. So there's more information that is coming to me as I am working further with them, but I'm trying to piece it all together. And one thing that has been very helpful is the research that I have been doing to, it has helped a lot to understand about DNA and about how our system functions and how we do uh, uh, um, accept light into our systems. Um, so another experiment we did was with water, and it was just simple H2O from the tap. Now, our systems are made up primarily of water, but not the same kind of water as H2O. It is structured water, and structured water actually is it's thicker, and it's the way it's structured together. It is because it absorbs more energy, and so I would suspect that that has a lot to do with self-repair as well. But um, when I was working with the water, um, we put it in a vial, in a crystal, quartz crystal, and we we sat it in for a few minutes all by itself, and then we tested that to collect data to sort of check where the conductivity, what's happening with it. And it came in super low. There wasn't really anything happening there. And then I contacted the light and the galactic codes and such to come in and uh, transfer the energy into the water. And what I began to see in my imagery was the compound. So the H's and the O's, hydrogens and oxygens, but then they started to move around. And again, remember I said it has to do with movement as well. Um, and when the H's, the hydrogens and oxygens began to move around, and then it stopped. And I asked what it was doing, and it said it was changing the compound so that it could absorb more light. And it told me that this is what happens on Sirius, that their structure has the ability to shift itself so that it can absorb more light. And I asked, is this something that we're capable of doing? And they replied that it's far more difficult in 3D to do this because we have such a range of emotion and density and such. But if we are to move out of this field, so to speak, and enter in, like the Syrians, in a different way, then we would also have the capacity to regenerate within our structure. Now, we do have healing capabilities when we're working with somebody who is a healer. Um, and it's not to say that that can't change, but to do it on your own is a different story. That's the long and short of it.
Aren't we changing cellularly so that we can bring in more light? And aren't we holding more light as these photonic waves are passing through the planet?
Yes, absolutely. So right now we are moving from being a carbon-based body to a crystalline body. Yes. And as that shift happens, when we are in or come into that crystalline body, that's when we will be able to also have more of that self-repair capability. In the carbon body, um, this is where we hold a lot of our emotional aspects, things that we're still holding onto that is in our spiritual matrix, and held in our DNA, and that maybe that we've brought in or that we've accumulated in this time. And that still exists, what I want to say, in the animal part of the brain, which is back here in the occipital part of your head. Um, it's the security, it's the fight or flight, it's those old patternings of thinking. When we clear those away, you automatically are shifting more of your light, and your frequency into a higher range where you have more capacity to actually do that self-repair. So I know for a fact when I work on my own self and when I work with others, and Sheila, I'm sure you have the same with clients as well. We watch the shifting, and I don't believe that people are, or myself, when the shift is occurring, when the healing is occurring, I don't believe I'm heavily in 3 dimension. I believe that we are moving out of that and holding in another density or such where we can access more of that healing capability. And so kind of what I'll say flip-flopping in and out of this, but moving more into that crystalline body.
Beautiful. So, what do you think is the next step with this research?
Well, that's a good question. I really take it from them. I really don't know what it is. I'm still really brought into more of this. This is something that's so close to my heart, beyond my real comprehension of why I feel so strong about it. And until it really made its way apparent to me, I didn't even understand why I was so drawn to it. And now I completely understand because I'm in this other time doing this. So I think for me, it's just exploring more about that, and how we can influence and manipulate our energy, because this is really what it's going to take for us to come to where we want to come to. So learning more about that, learning more about how the DNA even functions in other ways. Um, and I'm just going to share a little bit about this. Um, there's a Russian scientist who I'm considering really speaking with about this because he's very heavily involved in this, and it really tickles me. Um, he uh, he works in biophotonics, and he so he did this experiment, and he took DNA and he put it in a quartz container and he zapped it with a red laser. And what he found was that it absorbed the light and it stored it for up to 30 days inside this corkscrew shaped spiral in an exact blueprint of light reflecting the DNA.
Mhm.
And what even goes beyond that is the spiral of light stayed in the same exact place even after the quartz container and the DNA had been removed. That really gets me excited. It does, Sorry, but I mean, when you look at that and you realize that there's this force, even though we don't see it, there's this force that's holding the light in a place, and it's possible that it's really the energy is it's exchanging the information, in our cells. Our cells are communicating with each other, but it's communicating with us in the form of light. And that is really good stuff because I think that creates a different perspective in the way we think. So here's just a really simple thing. You take a glass of water, right? So if you're to hold the water and just for a moment, just call in the light and ask the light to be absorbed into your water so that it can heal whatever aspect that needs to heal or to, bring you further into a higher frequency and such. Just that little bit will really make a difference because we've quantified this information now, Glenn and I, that we've proved that by activating it, that creates a happening. So we took the codes on a piece of paper and we put the DNA on it and we sat it in the sun for about an hour. And then he took it and he collected the data, and it really didn't do anything. And it didn't do anything, as we realized over time of doing all of this, is that it wasn't activated. It requires activation. And if you understand what activation is, that's merging or connecting or um, creating some kind of movement with it, like your words or your intention can activate this. So if you have a crystal sitting there, it's much wiser to activate the crystal, to say, to imply, to connect. So then when we did the DNA again and I activated the codes, then they moved up to a percentage of 417%, which is off the charts. So you take something that's not activated, and all you do is transfer the light or the energy from the coded information or whatever it is that you want to transfer, whether it be a crystal or just some energy from wherever you are bringing it from. Um, we know that makes a difference by activating it. So that was one of the important things that we found. When it's not activated and when it is activated, there's a huge difference with this. And it's not just me. We all are capable of doing this. It's everyone can do this. It really can. Um, we're all
Lori,
capable of this.
I have a question from Doug. He's wanted to know if you can visually describe what the codes and the templates look like. And, for him, what they're made of. Is it a digital or geometric? Um,
Yeah. So, I'm going to just tell you they look like squiggles. They're all different, like lines and dots and squiggles, and there's no pattern really to them. But when they come and I focus on one, it opens up information and it has something to tell me very specifically in that particular coded information. And then there are times where when I'm working with somebody, and the information comes and it's transmitting to the person, it will open up very specific for that individual as well. So they work as a collective with a grouping of information. They've talked to me about, oh my goodness, they've talked to me about the pyramids. They've talked to me about the ley lines and how they are transmitting information to the ley lines and to the earth, and how they're communicating between the different sacred sites and such. They talk about all different kinds of things, just depends on what particular code shows up. And I can draw them, but it's sometimes I don't see them really clear, and then sometimes they're very crystal clear. So I just
So
know when
this
they show up.
so the squigglies or the dots are like packets of information that
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
unfold for you.
yeah, definitely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're not linked to EMFs or anything, right?
No, not at all. They're and what they tell me. So when I first started to work with them, they told me they read like a manual for
Mm.
humanity, actually. So I've never really started at the beginning. I kind of just go all over the place with them. But what they also have said is that it's really not to get caught up in the squiggle or the way it looks. It's the information that's held. And we know that in particles, they're chock filled with information. And it's not only the particles that are filled with information, but it's the space between the particles have information as well. And they're all communicating with each other. I mean, there's a whole lot going on that we don't see or that we're not always privy to, in third dimension.
Awesome. Let's see. Oh yeah, so basically you're talking about quantum entanglement within the information, the cells, the DNAs, the downloads.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And so all you have to do, if I understand correctly, is like when you're working with the Syrians, you connect with them through intention
Mhm.
and they download the information. What other groups are you working with?
You mean groups or in within that these galactic codes?
Within the galactic codes.
Yeah, so I've worked with the Palladians many times, Syrians, the Arcturians, and the Andromedans. Um, I've yet to really connect with the Lyrans yet, but I feel like that's coming fairly soon. And they open up when I'm connected to something specific that they have to tell me, or when someone comes and they're connected to that particular person. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the Lyrans have to say since they carry so much of the um, progenitor energy for this entire universe.
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe they're saving that. I don't know.
That's the big bang for you.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So now let me ask you, what do you hope to do with all this information?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think it's really up to me what I want to do with it. I think it's more what they want me to do with it. When I go places and I'm in larger groups, I can transmit if it's conducive. I really don't know I don't know until it shows up for me, actually. But what I am looking potentially to do, and we're working on this, them and I, to actually put this together in a sort of a streaming so that people can access this on my website, that they could download the streaming from the activation of these codes. And I'd really like to be able to do that. I put together one, and I just kind of have to play with it and see how it works. I kind of want to test it a little bit with a few people and see what their reaction is, and make sure nothing kind of gets lost in so-called energy of the website or whatever. But I'm playing with it a little bit. At one point, we were looking at how to transfer it into a substance of sorts. Um, but I think it feels more like accessibility for people. And so this would open up a different opportunity that people can not only uh, receive, but they can use it at their own discretion and convenience. And that's what I want to do. When they came to me, they told me this is not to be kept, it is to be shared and given to all people that choose to come in. So um, yeah, and I love that. It's been great.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, how you started talking about the luminescence and, with lightning bugs here on this planet, there's been so much research done, everything, from looking for Alzheimer's to cancer cures. And so I think scientists have known for a long time there's, this magic in the DNA of the luminescence because they also have studied various sea creatures that luminesce.
But the interesting thing is, they don't know still how it really happens.
Right.
They do not know. It's like one of those, mysteries yet. And I think they're close, but they're missing something. I keep hearing from the codes they're missing something because they're looking too much to the exact science, and but as we open up and we get more familiar and comfortable with things like what I was talking about with the Russian scientists, there are those that are really stretching into that. And I believe they're going to, come upon this way of this light coming in. Yeah. It it is an amazing experience, this luminescing. There's so much around it, and I mean, I could get super, super technical if I pulled up all that information, but I'd lose you because there's a lot of science behind it. But to me, it's super fascinating because one thing leads you to another, to another, to another. And before you know it, there's all this information. It's like it makes so much sense why we need to go there. We need to understand this. This is our future, which is now for healing. We have this capability, and that's what they tell me. It is here. It's just a matter of opening it up when we're ready to open it up completely. But also, I think if it maybe, we wouldn't want it to be in the wrong place or in the wrong hands either, so there may be just the right timing of it all as well. And I don't know if that is the way it is or not. I'm not sure.
Awesome.
So I just keep working with it, and more comes about over time. Yeah, it's been fascinating though, for my own self, because you work in energy, when people tell you give you feedback about what's happening for them. There was a woman, I transferred the codes to her. She's a light worker in Australia, and it was quite interesting because she was laying on her massage table, and I'm just transferring the codes. My eyes are closed. I don't know what's going on really. And she said to me, she nearly fell off her table. She said there was so much energy being transferred. She nearly fell off the table. Wow. That, halfway around the world, right? So,
Quantum entanglement.
yeah, there you go, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, let me
Exactly.
ask, yeah, I'm going to totally shift gears on
Sure.
you. I know that you have had many visitations, you've been on craft for people who have never had that type of experience. Can you share a little bit about what it's like? Maybe some of some of the feelings, not necessarily like, oh, there was a dashboard over here with this button and that type of thing, but, just to give people a sense of what that's like.
Sure. So I've actually had a few people come to me, and I have actually a crystal that is a part of a spaceship. It comes from the planet Trenton, and when it entered into our atmosphere and crashed here, it broke into pieces, and then it solidified into a crystal. But I did not know that when the person handed it to me and said, Uh, what do you get from this? And people do this to me all the time because I work in psychometry. So so I immediately went to their planet and onto their ship. And sh ships are different depending. Okay. Now I've not been on lots of them, I'm going to say, but that one was very different than the main one that I've been on. And what that looks like to me, it almost um, it almost looks like so I call it the UN of the cosmos because there's so many different kinds of beings. And I have not met all of them. So, rest assured, I might be taken back by some of them actually because they're all different kinds. And so I've met some. Um, and I've been in two of the rooms. So one of the rooms works with healing, and this was about 5 years ago. I came upon through the Arcturians. The best I can say in this healing uh, um, instrument, it kind of looked like an iron to me. I mean, that's the way I'm going to describe it to you, what it looked like. Didn't have a cord, but kind of like in that shape. And all they did was hold it, and I could feel the change shifting in my body. So they were just showing me what that was about. Let's see what else. The other thing is the way they interact with their with the ship. It's all intuitive. It's like the ship is alive. It communicates telepathically with them, and we can also, if you are in the right vibe or frequency, you can also access these particular ships, depending on who they are and whether they want you to or not, so to speak. But you can connect with them. And the few times that I've had the opportunity, it's like I don't know where the instruments are or anything. I wasn't in that part of it. I was more in another room or two. But I do know that by speaking with the ship, it interacts with you. Um, and it communicates information that it's kind of strange because you wouldn't think a ship would communicate with you like that, but it's kind of like talking to another person, like or like we would think of AI or what are those little contraptions that sit in the house and or like
Alexa.
Siri, Alexa, right? It's kind of a little bit like that, but not exactly. So it has its own capability and it is alive. And so this it's like a oneness, like you are connected deeply with this being because it is alive. That's the best I can describe it in a sort of way for the few times that I have recollection about being up on it. But it's kind of funny because my mind gets a little foggy about it. And I don't know if that has to do with actually being there and coming back or what. I'm not quite sure.
Right, right. Now, what was the name of the planet you mentioned?
Oh, Planet Trenton. It's Trintin, I think.
And where is that located?
I don't know. I don't know where it's located. I don't know if I even asked that question or if it's maybe that I just don't remember. When you're in a place in another reality when you're speaking. The information, it's like when you're waking up out of sleep, it comes in and it goes out. And sometimes you retain some of it, and some of it just goes away and you don't remember it. So there's so many happenings. There's just no way my brain holds on to all of it. And
Sure.
but this was interesting, this Planet Trenton, because also it was about the interaction of this particular spaceship and how it merges with your mind and it changes the way you see things in your mind, which really kind of blew me away that this ship could actually do that, but in a good way. It was a good way. So, but it was really interesting to experience that. And I've only experienced that once or twice with this particular crystal, but it's quite fascinating. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so the people are trying to spell it Trinton or
T
Trin.
Tin, Tin.
Tin.
I'm pretty sure that's how it is,
Yeah.
Trin. I
And
don't know if you're going to find anything out there about it, so maybe.
so if people want to reach you, Laurie, how's the best way to do that?
Okay, so they can go to my website, which is wellnesswithin.net. Um, and if you don't mind, can I give a plug for the retreats that are coming up?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's
And
kind
what would they
of,
find on that website, Laurie?
oh, well, you're gonna find the different modalities that I work in, but you'll find testimonials, you'll find recordings, um, and then the Spirit Adventure Tour part of my work as well. I bring people on retreat to different places. We've been to Mount Shasta, Sedona, Glastonbury, and the UK, and we're going back again in July to Glastonbury and then up and through Wales. And that is going to be fascinating because you're at all interested in dragons and Merlin. And this is a massive Stargate right now open in Glastonbury because Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the world. It's where the galactics can really speak to you. It's where the veil is very thin. It's active, this Stargate, and so we're going to work with whoever shows up through that Stargate. We just came back from Egypt in November. We're going back again in October this year. Um, oh gosh, I've been to Hawaii, Mexico. I lived in Mexico. I lived in Hawaii. Worked with the dolphins and in the transference of energy from the dolphins to people. I got to actually hold dolphins, their heads in my hands, and look in their eye, and they transfer information that just it's the most amazing experience, and they transfer images because that's how they work in like a sonar type of, so they're very visual, and they create visual for you. Yeah, so you'll find all of that kind of stuff on my website. Yeah.
Awesome. 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 Okay, let's see. Do we have any questions? Let's see. Did Trenton feel like it was from a different galaxy other than the Milky Way?
Gosh, I don't know if I really remember that. I'd have to go back into my notes. I don't I don't know if I felt like it was outside the galaxy or not. I can't, I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, I would think that it's one of those things you're so enamored with
Yeah.
the moment and the experience of, because I know at times when I've been on craft, it's almost, I mean, you're conscious, you have your own individual thought, but it's like this different energy kind of permeates through you
Hmm.
as you're there, and they start to impart all those downloads. So,
Hmm.
with the information that you're receiving, I can't imagine you even remembering the name of the planet. So good on you.
Yeah. Well, and when you come out of it, I try to take
Yeah.
as much note as possible And what I've done over the years is I record as well.
Yeah.
So I could never remember all of this, but I record it and then I transcribe my recording so that I can go back and look at it and oh yes, I remember that now. Okay, it comes back to you because it's like when you're sleeping, right? And you're waking up, you're not remembering those particular dreams or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very much like that, you know. Yeah.
And I also find it fascinating the way that the packets of information arrive, like in the squigglies or in the dots and stuff, because I know when I'm working with the holographic grids, everything is very structured. The way I see it, there's like geometry, and then things come together, and then there's a node, and it opens up to a stargate, and then it connects over here, it connects over there.
Mhm.
And to receive that kind of information is different than seeing like a gridded system, because I would think that information is very fluid, that it would shift and change how you're receiving it depending on the vibrations you're giving off,
Mhm.
not just the information, but also from whomever it is that's beaming it. I would think there would have to be some type of reciprocation of energy going on. But I
Yeah.
find that really, really fascinating.
Yeah, and within that, within those star beings, there are numerous ones that come. So let's say it's the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or Andromedans. It's not just one. It's like there's numerous. So you can have, they have personalities,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're like us, in a way. They're all different. And so it depends on who you connect with. Some are a little more humorous, some are very, they've just got the information and that's what they're bringing. I mean, they're all really super different. And yeah, you never know who you're getting, so to speak, but it's really fascinating to get to know them. Some come more often than others, and it really depends on who I'm working with, who comes in, because it may be very related to them, but they're not really coming for me, all the time. I may have other beings that come to me within that particular system. Yeah, so.
So, with everything that you've learned and everything that you have experienced, this is the loaded question of the night. Is there any one thread that all of these things are, culminating about, or that you can see the commonality that's there ready to be shared?
Well, one thing right now that they keep coming back to that they consistently ask to be shared with people is we get caught up in our happening. What's the story? And we get caught into the story, okay? And everybody has a story. But they say to me, it's not the happening that's really important. It's what you do with it, because that's where your evolution happens. And right now, it is so important to know that. So when you receive some kind of information and you're not happy about it, it could be financial, it could be a relationship, it could be anything, right? When it
Mhm.
comes to you, if you can, in that moment, and I know this is a tough and challenging, right? But if you, in that moment, could just say to yourself, keep a sticky somewhere. I have a million stickies somewhere to remind me of things. What do I do with this? What am I going to do with it? Because that's where you're going to grow so much. So don't get caught up in all the everything. It's what you're going to do with it. So it's like somebody cuts you off on the street. You're going to blah, 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 or are you just going to send the light to them?
Yeah.
It's up to you because that matters to you. And then don't forget, we've got this huge matrix going on of energy. And there's a lot happening in that, right? And we're affected by it
Oh, yeah.
indirectly, and you're affecting, this receiving and transmitting. You have imprinted something there. So I think of it like a cobweb in a sort of way. It catches everything. If you can do visuals to help yourself think about things, it really helps, I think. I mean, I'm a visual person, and I think we are as human beings. I think it helps to think that way. so that we can grow ourselves and evolve, you know? Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, folks, if you're interested in reaching out to Lori, visit her website at wellnesswithin.net. So, Lori, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I sincerely appreciate it. I know we don't have our date set, but we are looking at putting together a DNA conference. And so I hope to be hearing more about this particular subject from you. So thank you so much for being here. It's always wonderful. Love spending time with you. Love spending time with you guys as well. So thanks for being here. You'll
Thank
notice that tonight our room was locked just to make sure that what happened last week never occurs again. So make sure you get here early. Tell your friends if they're complaining about not getting in the room. You know, it was locked a few minutes after we started. So, arrive early. The advantage is you get to hear Susie's beautiful songs.
you.
So, thank you guys again. Thank you, Susie. Thanks for all the great comments. Oh, and one last thing, Doug said he finds it really fascinating that the packets of information are coming in. Wait a minute, let me go back. Mental packets of meaning and information is my focus from the hyperdimensional bit physics that he works with. So he finds that very, very fascinating.
Oh,
So
well,
maybe
thank
you
you.
guys, want to reach out and share some info. So that's Quantum Doug. So
Yeah,
everybody, thank
great.
you again so much. Sending much love. I look forward to seeing you guys Monday. Oh, and if you really enjoyed hearing about the whales and or the dolphins and that kind of communication next month, and I don't have the date in front of me, but we have a lady coming who communicates with the aquatics. So, we'll look forward to that too. So, Lori, again, thank you. Check her out on the Conscious Awakening Network on her website. Everyone, good night, much love, and namaste. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful evening, everyone. Thanks.